Hi, my name is Juan, and in this video I'll cover exactly what I spend in a month living and working in London. For those of you that don't know me yet, I'm an aerospace engineering graduate that decided to do a slight career change, and I'm now living in London and working as a business analyst in a strategy consulting firm. And in a nutshell, what I get paid for doing that is basically where pretty much everything that you will see that I spend in a month comes from. But before diving into what I spend each month, I first wanted to talk about my mentality towards my personal finances in general, which is simply to stop spending money on things that don't necessarily bring you happiness, and on the contrary, spend as much as you like on things that make you happy. And now that may seem like a dumb concept at first, but trust me, it isn't. What it means is that you have to set priorities in life and then spend according to those priorities. When you start living on your own, managing your personal finances is by no means a done deal. And what you may well end up realizing if you do the math is that you can end up spending a lot of money on unnecessary stuff or just things that are not a priority for you. And you can end up in this weird spiral where you end up spending a lot of money on things like going out, Ubers and takeaways, and then you just don't have enough for other things that you may prioritize more, like me, for example, traveling. Now, this is not to say that you shouldn't spend your money on things like going out, Ubers and takeaways if those are things that make you happy. It's more to say that if you do end up spending a significant portion of your income in these kinds of things, that you do it as a conscious decision. Which beautifully leads me to my next point, which is that it is key to track your expenses. When I first moved to London, it wasn't long before I realized that I needed to start tracking my expenses. And this is for two reasons mainly. One, because I obviously wanted to stay in control of where I could spend more and where I should spend less, but also just for the mental clarity of knowing where my money goes every month. And so, as an analyst that I now am, I set up a database in Excel that I just use to visualize the data month to month. And this is actually an activity that requires some level of self-discipline because it requires at least 20 to 30 minutes of your time every week to plug your expenses in and just stay on top of everything. And although pretty much every single bank account nowadays lets you export all of the transactions all in one place, it still requires some level of customization because you need to tag every single transaction under the categories that you choose and analyze it. Something that is actually quite cool about this mechanism is that once you've been doing it for a while, it unlocks the potential to start looking for patterns in the data, and it lets you understand better what you need and what is essential for your day-to-day life, which in turn enables you to do another very cool thing, which is budgeting. And essentially what this means is that you can start adding thresholds to every single one of these categories before the beginning of the month, and effectively what this should do is to bring you closer to that previous idea of consciously putting your money closer to your priorities, which in turn should enable you to live a happier life. Now, I know that I can sound like a bit of a maniac, and it's possibly partially true, but this is just a system that has been working very well for me and that, among other things, lets me do things like this video. So then, where do I spend my money every month? Well, before starting to throw all of the numbers at you, I first wanted to state two disclaimers. First, that the amount that I spend every month varies quite a lot, and I was quite surprised when I looked at the data to see how significant this is, but it just makes sense in my current life where I'm hardly ever at home for 1 month straight. So the numbers that you will see here are averages and rough estimates, although pretty fact-based. And two, that my life has gotten quite hectic recently with all of the traveling, to the point where I think I now spend more time at the airport than at the office, pretty much. I have to say that not all of it is for work. I also travel back to see my family back in Spain and also traveling with friends, but just traveling in general makes these numbers a bit skewed, so just bear that in mind. Right, I will list my expenses from most essential to least essential. So the first category that I wanted to touch on, which is actually the main bulk of my expenses, is rent. Living in a city like London is everything but cheap, and I also think I moved in the worst time possible, which was back when all of the people were returning to work from COVID and all of the new incoming students were looking for a house, which coupled with rising interest rates just made the housing market in London in general insanely expensive. So even though it is by no means my dream house, I ended up moving to a shared house in the beautiful area of Clapham with 4 of my friends, for which I pay £970 a month. Which, considering all of the above and that it's actually quite a spacious and nice house, it's not that bad altogether. The next expense, which is also housing related, is bills. And this is one of the downsides of living in a big house in a cold city like London, especially if you have thin windows like we do, because to maintain the tropical Spanish microclimate that me and my fellow Spanish housemates love, we end up spending quite a lot in heating. Actually, the bills can be broken down into £110 per month on gas and electricity, £10 per month on water, and £10 per month on Wi-Fi. The other recurring bill that I have every month is my phone bill, but actually my company covers that and pays the money straight into my account by the end of the month, so I won't include it here, which brings the total amount paid in bills to £130 per month. Now, the next big category, which is usually my second biggest expense, is groceries. And this is mainly food, but I basically tag under groceries everything that I buy at Sainsbury's, Tesco, or other supermarkets, so it also includes pretty essential stuff like toothpaste or cleaning products or all of that good stuff. And I'll put an asterisk here, but it usually amounts to about £330 per month. And the reason why I put an asterisk here is that this is my most volatile category because it's directly correlated to the amount of time that I spend in London, since when I'm working abroad at the client side, I basically expense everything that I spend. So in a normal month, when I'll spend a fair amount of time at home, that is what I would usually look at spending. The next, and probably the last absolutely essential expense, is transportation. Now, I'll exclude taxis and cabs from this category because I have a separate tag for that, and in this category I'll just include things like tube, bus and bike. Again, this is one that will significantly depend on the number of times that I go into the office, since going into the office will cost me around £5 to £6 just on transportation to get there. And again, since I tend to travel quite a lot, on top of the fact that my company is very flexible with working from home policy, I haven't been going that often to the office lately. But as a rule of thumb, I always try to be in the office at least once a week, even if it's just to show my face around. Now, I'm obviously talking about the office in London. This doesn't account for the fact that when I'm traveling, I'm basically with my colleagues all the time. But in a typical month, I will end up spending about £60 on transportation. And this concludes what I would categorize as my absolutely essential expenses, which amount to £1,490. And now we start the section of the extras, if you like, and these are not in any particular order. The first one here is the gym. One of the things that I miss the most about my quote-unquote previous life as a student is that I was active all day. Nowadays, I spend quite a lot of time sitting behind a desk, so I highly value to get some time to go to the gym, and so I didn't include it in my previous section because I know it's not an essential requirement, but for me it almost is. And under this tag, I include my gym membership, which is about £30 per month, and also my supplements and gym snacks, which amount to about £25 per month, giving a grand total of £55 on gym-related stuff. The next category is taxis and cabs. And again, this is also an expense that will depend on my time in London, but it's actually an expense that has been going up progressively with time. Basically, as I have become more and more lazy to take multiple modes of transport or walk long distances or just take the bike. This is currently sitting at roughly £80 per month, and although I feel okay with that number and I highly value the comfort and the time that I get back by taking cabs and taxis, I wouldn't want to ramp it up much more past that number. Next we have eating out. And here I include everything from eating at the office to going out for dinner. Actually, going out for dinner in London is something that is on average extremely expensive, so I don't tend to do it a lot. But in any case, this is something that me and my friends realized that we wanted to start doing more of. And here goes a small tip. There are a lot of very good discounts if you look for them. And we have gone out to places in Kensington and Chelsea, which are not known for being the cheapest areas, with up to 50% of the final bill just covered, which makes the whole experience a lot more affordable. Hence, my total expenditure for eating out is about £80 per month. And now, the moment that you've all been waiting for, going out. Going out in a city like London can be very expensive, and when I say very expensive, I mean very expensive. Depending on where you go, I know people that can easily spend hundreds of pounds on just one night out. And again, this goes back to the point that I made at the beginning of the video. If you really think that spending £100 on a night out will make a significant impact to your level of happiness as opposed to spending £20, then by all means, go for it. It is just the case for me that I love to go out with my friends, but I just recently discovered that I don't need to spend that much at all to have a very good time. In any case, personally, I feel like fitting a night out or going out during the week is a lot tougher now that I'm working, so these are typically concentrated during the weekend, and I'll spend all in all around £75 every month on going out. The next category on the list is what I've called personal expenses. This includes any personal treats that I buy for myself, including clothes, gadgets, or any other expense that just doesn't fall under any of the other categories really. I personally don't spend a lot of money on clothes. Well, first of all, because I don't have an awful lot of clothes anyway, but also because I just get gifted clothes for Christmas or for my birthday, so I just don't really need to buy that many pieces of clothes. However, I like to reserve about £100 every month for personal expenses of the sort, although I won't typically spend it all in a month, which is nice because it just leaves me with more disposable income to spend on other categories, like for example, traveling. Obviously, this doesn't include work-related trips, which I just don't pay for. This includes planned trips to visit my family or traveling with friends. I'm aware that I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I can travel around the world, and I'm also very fortunate to have a good group of friends that are happy to let me and other friends stay in their houses, making traveling a lot easier as well as much less expensive. In any case, it is very difficult to quantify how much I spend on traveling on a monthly basis, so what I've done is I've calculated a rough yearly amount based on the past trips that I've had and also all of the upcoming trips that I already have planned throughout the year, and this roughly amounts to £3,500 per year, which if you divide by 12 is roughly £290 per month on traveling, which, considering all of the great times that I've had with my friends at all of the different places that I've been in, is single-handedly totally worth it. This concludes my section of extras at £680, which added up to the essentials amount to a total of £2,170 in monthly expenditure. However, there is a final expense that I've dedicated its own category for, and this is my student loan, which is basically debt that I owe the British government for funding my degree to become a wasted aerospace engineer. This is something that I pay up front, and it's basically £300 that just magically disappear from my account every single month, putting the grand total of my expenses at £2,470 per month. Now, this may sound like a lot of money to be spending, especially at my age, and I think it comes down to the first topic of the video, which is the topic of the priorities, but also living life to the fullest now that I can and that I don't have as many responsibilities, instead of trying to save every single penny that reaches my account. Of course, I have a savings plan in place, and I actually think that saving and investing is key to personal finance, but just right now, with a student loan that gets 7% bigger every single year, it just seems to me that the best investment that I can make is to pay it off as soon as possible. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you thought of the video, where you think I can spend more, where you think I should spend less, or just in general any new ideas for upcoming videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.